to the Fluffenhammer. You may notice the absence of a cold opening there. That's really, as we were just discussing, that's the purview of my colleague, Adam, who sadly isn't with us today. He has been struck down, or blessed, depending on how you look at it, blessed by Nurgle himself, and he is not feeling terribly well. So all the best to Adam, yeah? But I do have someone here it's not just going to be me talking into the void, you know? It's not just going to be an echo chamber. I do have a guest here. We have Andy here, Cobra Commander himself. How you doing, Andy, man?
Hi, man. It's going good. I didn't actually think that Gruff was plagued by Nurgle, but I thought he was afflicted by the gift of Slaanesh. Constant
pain, I suppose. So the thing with the gift of Slaanesh is eventually you come to enjoy it. You have to, it has to be that kind of pain.
Well, I wonder how long it'll I should ask Adam how long it would take him for him to begin to enjoy his agony at the moment.
to sort of reorient his context so that he starts to enjoy the pain. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And he has been posting pictures of Grom the Paunch that he did from a while ago. So he's got that artistic side going at the moment.
And that is very Slaanesh.
Exactly,
that is very Slaanesh indeed. But I'm sure. Actually, Andy, what have you been doing? Have you been doing anything hobby-wise lately?
Not particularly. I've had hobby things arrive to me, but I haven't had really the time. I've been waiting for paints to arrive. Specifically, I'm waiting for Volehoch. Black Primer to come in. That's the only way you should say that company's name, I think.
Love it.
It's more fun. Because that's obviously, it's hey, primers, they don't exist at the moment because everybody's buying them online.
Right.
So I'm waiting for that to come in. I just got today 2 contrast paints, which I've never used before. I got Warp Lightning and Voluptuous Pink.
Voluptuous pink. Now that again, just the whole theme is Slaaneshi. It happens naturally with the Fluffenhammer. It just happens naturally.
Looking at it in the tub, I wouldn't say it's very voluptuous, but it looks quite dark. It'll probably look less so when it goes on a model.
Yeah.
The reason I got them was I want to have glow effects, and I saw a guy use them for, how the new Necron models, their blades specifically have that effect going on. How
that
it goes
sort of
from
ethereal glow.
Yeah, the white to the black kind of effect. You can kind of achieve that with the contrast colors, with obviously a lot less work than what the heavy metal painters probably have to do.
Yeah, the layers upon layers upon layers upon layers.
And it's the mixing of the black colors with the contrast colors. It seems like if you just layer it in hard, light along the edge of the blade or in certain places, and then just keep layering it to darken it down, it can give the same kind of glowy effect. And I'm like, that'll do. When Necrons come and I've got things to paint with them, that'll do. I don't need to worry too much about it then.
Yeah, right. And that's what I am pleased about with certainly the new range is that although they have painted the glowy elements, the classic green, you don't necessarily have to go with that with them. You could, to represent different tomb worlds perhaps, or different cultures of Necrons, you could go with a different ethereal quality. So you could go with the ethereal blue of the Night Gaunts or something like that. That'd be quite fun.
I know one of them, I don't have my codex on hand, but one of them, the previous codex, was a black skeletal model for the most part, and then the inner color for the energy effect was an orangey glow, which was really nice. So it kind of had the lavery look. I was like, oh, that's nice.
That's very cool, actually. Yeah. And I like the fact that they've given you that option now, so you can customize your Necrons and whatnot. I love that to bits. Really love that to bits. But I'm kind of like you, hobby-wise. I haven't had a chance to do much. I got a box of Chaos Space Marines.
What kind?
The new ones. There's the general Chaos Space Marines. The new ones. In preparation for the War of the Spider.
Are you not going to tentacle them up like you did your Thousand Sunsies?
Oh, I'm going to go nuts with them. Because I want them to be Fabius Bile's cohort. So I've pre-ordered Bile. He's going to be coming hopefully relatively soon, and the collector's edition of the book, the Psychic Awakening War of the Spider.
Ah, okay.
That's got the short stories and things in it. If there was going to be one, it was going to be this one that I was going to get the special edition of, because it's Fabius Bile.
Oh yeah, he's your boy.
He's great. I mean, I just cannot resist. Cannot resist. But what I'm thinking of doing, I'm going to get some racks, and I'm going to get, like, there's Ricari racks. I'm going to get some, a Talos boxed set, and I'm going to use all of the surgical implements, the extra arms and limbs that have got scalpels and claws and syringes and all of that stuff. And what I'd like to do with them is make them, each of the Chaos Space Marines, a little diorama. So make it so they're not just in battle poses, so they're not just firing bolters or whatnot, but maybe they're, I don't know, performing an autopsy on a corpse or something, you know, extracting an organ, or testing a syringe of some chemical or something like that. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
That'd be lots of fun, because of course the Chaos Space Marines who follow Bile, they're all apothecaries themselves. You know, they're all interested in the same things that he's interested in. They're hoping to learn from him. So that's kind of what I'm looking at the moment.
Are you going to be making some Terrata as well?
Terrata? Probably, yeah. I'll probably make like some Chaos Spawn or something like that. I mean, the thing with the Terrata, you can just... If you've got a bits box, just delve into the bits box and start stapling things together and see what happens, you know?
I imagine rule-wise you'd probably run them as the obliterators, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Terrata, you can get away with a lot. You could make, like, different species of Terrata. So you can run them as Chaos Spawn. You could run them, like, a really big one as a Hellbrute or something like that.
Oh, wow, yeah,
you know?
that's a good point.
That'd be good fun.
Yeah.
Obliterators, mutilators, really. Any possessed are an obvious, you know, obvious. Assuming, because of course in the War of the Spider, Fabius has his own army of Chaos Space Marines that have their own rules and their own restrictions and whatnot. I don't quite know what the restrictions are and what you can take from the Chaos Space Marine Codex.
Right.
But presumably you will be able to take possessed and stuff like that.
It'd be weird if you couldn't.
It would be weird if you couldn't. So why not? I mean, that would be fun. And applying some of the upgrades from... they're called the Creations of Bile. That's what the army is called. Applying some of the upgrades and the stratagems from that army to Possessed would be actually very sound, you know. It would work very, very well indeed. So they are... The way that army seems to work, they are basically everything I love. They're Chaos Space Marines, but they have the sort of surgical and mutagenic qualities of Homunculi Covens, so it's just, gotta be done.
Are you going to give them the colour hint of the Emperor's Children, just like in small parts here and there?
You know what, I don't know.
Everywhere?
I'm thinking about it, because the thing with Bile's followers is they are all, if you read the Josh Reynolds books, all of Fabius's followers, they are all from different legions. They're from all over the place. It's like they're a bit like the Black Legion. You know, they're ragtag outcasts from other legions who have thrown their lot in with Bile, or have been forced, they've been coerced into following him. So you can paint them however you like, or if you wanted, you could paint them in a more uniform style to make it seem like they've gotten rid of their old heraldry. So I don't know yet.
You could maybe do like maybe a pauldron or shoulder pad maybe has the color of their previous legion, and with the Terrata, like you say, you could just slap on like ultramarine colors if you wanted.
Right, they could be absolutely anything. I mean, there is actually. I think it's in one of. I don't know whether it's in one of the Emperor's Children books, but there is a story of an Imperial Fist who's captured by Fabius Bile and gets turned into something hideous.
He has a bad time. That's I think that's one of the Horus Heresy ones, I think, isn't it?
Is it one of the Horus Heresy? I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's one of the latter Horus Heresy books. It may be Angel Exterminatus or something like that.
Yeah. I'm edging towards that one.
I think it's that one. I can't, because the thing that always eclipses everything in that for me is the ascension of Fulgrim at the end. I think that's absolutely brilliant, the way he erupts from himself. And what I love about that ascension more than anything is how it's described from his perspective. He experiences this metaphysical explosion inside of himself where he sees like all of time and space, all of reality at once, and suddenly he knows. Suddenly he is operating on a different sphere, like a different plane of existence, and it's like, okay, this is my new playground. This is the way things are going to be from now on. Brilliant. Fantastic. And the last 10,000 years for Fulgrim have just been one giant carnival. He's just been having a whale of a time.
It's good that someone's enjoying the 41st millennium.
Yeah, because there aren't many, are there?
No, not really. Not relatively speaking, no.
The ones I can think of, Fulgrim and the Emperor's Children, they're kind of enjoying themselves.
Sure.
The Orcs and the Homunculi. The Homunculi are also having a whale of a time. They've actually been having a whale of a time for much longer than Fulgrim has, because they're ancient. They're like some of them are older than humanity itself.
Yeah, they look at him like a child. So
yeah. Pretty much. I mean, what really excites me, I think we may have discussed this on the last Fluffenhammer, but we've also got the next Josh Reynolds book coming out, you know?
Oh, yeah.
To coincide with the War of the Spider. It's not coming out for a little while yet, but that actually explores Fabius's relationship with the Coven of 13 Scars.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, like, the Coven of 13 Scars are a homunculi coven who taught Bile. They actually welcomed him into their little, like, labyrinths beneath Comora, and they taught him a lot of their techniques and whatnot, but they're a little bit narked with him.
Why
not
is that?
Not angry as such. They still like him fine. They're still amused by him, but they're a little bit annoyed because of the way he's been deploying his gifts, apparently.
Oh, okay.
They're a little bit annoyed with that, and they've got to teach him a bit of a lesson.
Oh.
And they've got to sort of slap him on the wrist a bit.
Oh, okay.
So there will be conflict. There will be a little bit of conflict there.
I wonder if they'll just kiss and make up at the end, though, and be like, "Oh, you've taught me a lesson. Oh,
in
you
the,
little
in
what's
the
it?"
Chaos Space Marine Codex, where it describes like the overview of this whole conflict, that's kind of what happens. Then what happens is they reach an impasse, right, where they realise no one's going to win this war. So they reach a parley where they say to Baal, look, we are a little annoyed with the fact that you've done this with our gifts, and we don't want you distributing them willy-nilly, all right? These are our sacred gifts, so you don't do that. What we will do, we will operate upon you. We will surgically seal the knowledge in your head so that you can deploy it, but you can't teach it to anyone else.
Oh, that's an interesting... I can't even conceive how that would
Right.
work.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea, but that's what the overview says in the Chaos Space Marine Codex.
Oh, that's
so,
fascinating. So is this going to expand on that?
I'd assume it is. I'd
Wow.
assume that must be it, but the way it describes the war is fun as well, because the Coven of 13 Scars deploy like they're big creatures. The stuff looks like night scale. So like giant towers of living flesh and whatnot. I mean, it's going to be great fun. It's going to be great fun.
Wow.
But yeah, and presumably because this is the third book, I'd assume this is going to cap off the trilogy for a while.
That makes sense, yeah.
I mean, that's what happened with Araman. Although, you know, if John French really wanted to do another series of the Araman books, I'm so up for that. So up for that. And there's material to do it. I mean, there's material to do it. There's the whole War on Fenris. There's any number of novels there. There's the opening of the Cicatrix Maledictum, the dragging of Sorciarius into real space, all of that, you know?
Yeah.
All of that. The Ritual of the Damned, you know? All of that. It's all there. And I hope John French is working on another Araman story or another Araman trilogy, because they're some of my favourites, I've got to say.
Do you not think he might be edging for a different character to maybe work on a trilogy for?
Maybe.
Just to mix it up?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, because, I mean, the Araman books are big as well.
Yeah.
So he's done a lot of work on it, and loads of short stories. There are a ton of short stories on the Black Library.
Put him on Audible.
Yeah, that'd be great. Some sort of bundle would be great, wouldn't it?
I don't mind just like putting them out one a year or something. Mm-hmm. I'd be happy with that.
Well, they're very good. I mean, I can highly recommend anything by John French written about Araman. It's just brilliant. It's just absolutely wonderful stuff. But beyond that, that's it at the moment for me.
Have you seen the hex wraiths that Adam made? Has he put the photo up online yet on the Fluffenhammer? He might not have.
No, I don't think I've seen those yet.
Right, so he made, using bits from his bits box and stuff like that, a load of hex wraiths, because I don't like the hex wraiths, because they're old and they look kind of shitty, if you ask me. So he's used like Bretonnian horses, and then he's used some knights and kind of just slapped on some green stuff to make robes and fire effecty kind of stuff.
No, I haven't seen these yet.
Yeah, I just got them in the post recently, and he asked me last night if he could put up pictures of them, and I said, "You made them, man. You do what you like, whatever." So they'll probably go up on the Fluffenhammer at some point. There's
Excellent
at least
stuff.
10, 5. They're on my desk, so yeah. If there's 10 of them.
I mean, he was talking to me about some of the new reveals that we've had, you know, the Necrons and whatnot, and he is edging towards 40k with the Necrons.
Because the Necrons are so good.
Well, I mean, actually, shall we get into it? Shall we talk about?
Sure.
Well, obviously, everyone out there knows we're here to talk about the reveals from from Saturday.
Yes.
We got
kind of stuff we already knew, though.
Yeah, I mean,
But
it was all stuff that we knew. All they
Better
were really
pictures,
doing,
thankfully.
Yes, they were going through bit by bit, detail by detail, the Indomitus box. So the new box release for 9th Ed 40k, which was an odd one actually. It's a slightly odd one because they're changing tack with it. Before, whenever there's been a new version of 40k or any of the main games, the box set has always been the whole thing. So you've got the dice, you've got like any counters, any templates that you need or anything like that. They're not doing that with this one, and actually I think it's a step in the right direction. It's really just the rule books and the miniatures.
Is that kind of not what Soul War did as well? Because I came in after the fact and didn't get the Soul Wars box, but from what I recall, Soul Wars felt similar to this. It probably still had some of the dice and stuff in there, right?
I think so, yeah. I think Soul Wars had a few of the dice and a few of like the little bits and pieces for playing the actual game.
Right.
What it seems to me they're doing with this one is, rather than aiming it at new players, so including like all of the miniatures that are much easier to put together, that are a bit simpler, for introducing new players, this is going hard for the veterans.
Yes, it doesn't look like, I could be wrong, it didn't seem like any of the sprues were push fit ones, which is good.
I don't think they are. I think they are all just these are basically, if you bought the box set separately, this is what you'd be getting.
Yeah, it's almost like what they call battalion boxes. Just
right.
The difference is half of them's one army, half of them's another army.
It's just two of them thrown together. It's just like a massive box set, and it's almost like a manifesto for 9th Ed. It seems to me when you look at these miniatures, like the Primaris on one side and the Necrons on the other, they've done exactly what Adam and I have been talking about on this show for ages, which is they've AOS'd it.
Yeah.
It looks like these new miniatures line, if they're going into 9th Ed, whenever there's going to be like a resurrection or renaissance of an old army, they're going to take the aesthetic and take it to its absolute extreme, make it weird, make it bizarre, maybe remove it from what people's expectations of it are.
Yeah.
And that's great. I'm so up for that.
There are some issues I could personally see, at least with the Space Marines. If you are, say, a person that plays, say, the Space Wolves, or like the White Scars, or factions that aren't knightly.
Yes.
This is going to be a hard box for you to... Or harder. I'd say harder because there's some incredibly talented people out there. It's going to be a harder box set for you to customize because of all of the knight stuff on them. Like, this would be really hard for you to paint up as Space Wolves and you go... Right? You go...
Yeah. That's definitely true. There is a very particular aesthetic with the Primaris in this one. They're very different from everything that's come before. They've gone hard on that sort of knightly aesthetic. Dark Angels would have a field day with these guys.
Black Templars,
Templars,
Blood Angels probably would do as well.
Yeah, Blood Angels can fit fine.
That will work. But there are some specific ones that won't.
Yeah, Iron Hands. I can't see them working as Iron Hands particularly.
No.
Not even Raven Guard, because obviously the Raven Guard are supposed to be stealthy and supposed to be a bit shadowy, It's going to be hard to sneak around when you've got like a whole skeleton on your shield.
Yes, or a giant cloth between your loins.
Yeah, definitely. That said, I know it's going to divide people, this is.
Sure.
Because it is slightly removed, not only from the Primaris, but from what Space Marines have always been, where they've always been uniform, they've always been kind of clean cut as miniatures. These are not. They are hyper detailed.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people who don't like that.
Yeah. I can see why, though. It makes sense why some of them would like the more plain look, because again, as a customizer, it's probably easier to work from a basic base and work up from that.
Totally.
Where you work from this very highly detailed stuff, you have to then pull back and then add stuff onto it. But I like it a lot more. Just like straight out of the box, they look a lot more interesting.
Personally, for me, I really like it. This is my jam for 40k. For me, 40k has always been go big or go home. It's a silly universe. On the face of it, it is just the biggest, most extreme, most bombastic science fiction universe ever.
Yeah.
And I think that when they do this, when they really go to town, making things like highly impractical, highly stupid, go for it. I think it's great. I think it's really fun. I mean, at base level, this is a universe where you've got ubermensch super warriors wandering around with chainswords. I mean, chainswords are the silliest thing. They're the silliest thing. They're impractical. They're never going to work. You know, on a purely practical level, on a realistic level, they're just stupid. They're never going to work.
Oh, but they look so cool.
But they look great.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing, isn't it? And it looks great when you've got this guy here, this Primaris. What is he, a captain or a lieutenant, who's got a shield with what looks like a whole skeleton on the front of it. It's stupid as hell, but I love it.
Yeah, and from the size of it, it looks like it's not a human skeleton.
It's a Space Marine skeleton. It's a Space Marine skeleton. That's just. I mean, it's obviously going to be like a holy relic of the chapter. Maybe it's a previous captain, or like maybe the previous incumbent of his armor. You know.
Sure. Yeah, that would be kind of cool. Yeah.
Something like that. You know. I that's another thing. When you get these miniatures that are basically tiny little dioramas on their bases. You can derive so much narrative from them. So I look at things like this Primaris captain. I look at things like the Judicar, and I'm like, these guys, or is it Judicia or something, whatever they're called. You can derive story from them immediately. You just look at the miniature, and it's like, this guy just evokes so much.
Yeah, you can, as a story crafter, you can easily play a lot more with these things just because there's a lot more character behind them.
Yeah, and that's kind of what the Primaris have needed for a long time. I mean, the Primaris Marines they're a difficult sell because they're the new Space Marines. Yeah, they are essentially, ultimately intended to be the replacements for the Space Marines. Yeah, and in that, they're also removed from the classic archetypes of the Space Marines. So, like, the Primaris don't quite fit in with the chapters of old. You know, that's part of their fluff. They're not as in-depth or indebted to the legacies of the original legions or the original Primarchs as the Space Marines once were. Yeah. So you've got to do something to make them interesting, to give them their own feeling, their own ethos. It's the same problem they had with the Stormcast when they first came out in AOS, you know, where they were essentially just Space Marines in a fantasy setting. They've worked so hard to invest them with mythology and with feeling and with their own aesthetic. That's exactly what they're doing here, it seems to be.
I would agree with that.
And I like them. I like them a lot. I've got to say, I'm not an Imperial Space Marine player. I'm not a loyalist. I'm a filthy, dirty heretic.
You're not a heretic. You're a Xenos.
I'm a...
Xeno. Well, it depends on the day, I suppose.
Depends on the day. I mean, sometimes I like my Xenos, but generally speaking, my heart belongs to the Chaos Powers. It's always going to belong to the Chaos Powers, you know?
Yeah.
But these guys are exciting. I can see, like, sitting and just modelling these things for the hell of it, for the sake of it.
Just for the fun of painting and stuff.
Yeah, just to have them around, because I think they're great. That chaplain.
The chaplain's great. Though I look at his head and I see Kano.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
So he's going to have some very interesting fatalities, yeah?
Well, of course, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to have to get, like, I don't know, a Sisters of Battle painted up as Sonya Blade.
Oh, that'd be good.
Wouldn't that be ace? Yeah, wouldn't that be brilliant? Or maybe a Howling Banshee from the Eldari or something, you know? That'd be fun.
Yeah. I tell you that I really enjoy the fact as well that they've got, what's it called? You mentioned it before, the Judicar.
Judicia, I think it's Judicia.
And they mentioned that they're trying to expand out the chaplain order, so it's not just, it's a chaplain. It's a chaplain, but then there are other factions within that. So again, from a storytelling perspective, we can now have chaplain stories and expand more on them. Like, so you can have, does it go?
The chaplaincy within the Space Marine chapters, how does it work? Like, as an organization, are there conflicts of faith? You know, are there some Space Marines that interpret the law and the protocols of the chapter differently?
How easy would it be to slip into them being too similar to the Inquisitors in terms of writing them, if they're, because you don't want to have them be like separate factions and still fight with each other, but maybe you do, because if you go down that road, it might just be, like I say, become too similar to the
Inquisitors. Yeah.
So it could be interesting. There is potential there. There's more potential than there really ever has been, because Chaplain was just
A chaplain.
Yeah, chaplain, yeah.
It was just a chaplain.
Yeah.
Unless you look, except in very specific circumstances, like the Dark Angels, where you've got the interrogator chaplains and whatever. But no, this is really exciting to me. And the aesthetic of the Justiciar is great. I mean, he looks badass. That black armor, which looks slightly leathery, doesn't it? It's got this slightly, it looks really, he looks like he means business. And he looks, to me, the Age of Sigmar players out there, you guys could go nuts on this guy and turn him into, into something from your Stormcast very easily. Very easily.
Yeah, I can't imagine it would be, like, amazingly difficult. You just need to get rid of the shoulder stuff, the backpack.
The backpack. And everything else is kind of all right, isn't it? He hasn't got any
get
guns.
Rid of the egg timer that he's got.
Yeah, maybe.
Because that's a bit more Nagashi in the AOS realms. But you could, get rid of that, put on something else, boom, you're done.
You're done, basically. Because he's got... I mean, they are obviously going hard on this Knightly Order thing for the Primaris in the new edition. And that's what he looks like. He looks like some kind of wandering knight.
What if I said Dark Souls to you?
Yeah, well, we've discussed this many times on this podcast. Yes, he looks like a Dark Souls character, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He absolutely does. And blow me if there are not people in the design studio who've played Dark Souls and have got like the art books and whatnot. I wouldn't believe you.
No, I wouldn't.
I just wouldn't believe
you.
You look at stuff like the Night Haunts and whatnot. They're just so directly from Dark Souls, which is fine. That's not a criticism, Games Workshop.
God, no.
That is a big ass bit of encouragement. Go for it. But yeah, I like them. I like them a lot. I mean, just scrolling down, you've got the Blade Guard veterans, and obviously, Primaris players have been crying out for your close combat Primaris Marines for a long time, and now you've got them. You've got your Assault Marines, and you've got these Blade Guard veteran guys who look like they're going to be nasty as hell.
Yeah, I'm wondering if these are the equivalent of like close range Terminators. Mm-hmm. Oh no, they'd just be Assault Marines but with Storm Shields, I suppose, would be the difference, right?
I think that's sort of the equivalent, yeah.
Yeah.
But they're very cool looking. I mean, there is obviously the slightly more plain than the character models, but that's fine.
And it seems like they're mixing up some... I think I heard this on the live stream because I watched the live stream. I think they mentioned that they're mixing up some of the different types of Primaris armor, so it's not all the same, but it's slightly different.
That's interesting. So you're actually starting to get different marks of Primaris armor now.
I think so. I think the shoulder pads are meant to be similar to the... apologies, I'm not a Space Marine person. What are the ones that can fly? They're not the Assault Marines with the jetpacks like they used to be, but they've got those big jetpacks.
Oh,
and
those
the slightly
things.
hood looks.
I can't remember what they're called, but I know the ones you mean.
I think they have similar... I think they said they had similar shoulder pads, but obviously they don't have the hood part to the chest armor.
Well, actually, looking at them now, you know what I find interesting about the shoulder pads? They've got the ribbing that's reminiscent of Chaos Space Marines.
And I think they mentioned old Horus Heresy armor as well, which is, again, good.
That makes sense because the imperative that created these guys came about towards the end of the heresy.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. These guys, the Primaris, have been like they've been cultivating for millennia, literally for millennia. So it makes sense that they may have some older marks of armor and weaponry. That's another potential here, obviously there's going to be, they've said that you're going to be able to use all your old codices and whatnot, and that's great, that's fine. Yeah. But there are going to be a whole slew of new codices for Nine. Of course there are. And one of the first ones will be a Space Marine Codex. Of course it will be. And as and when they do that, the potential for expanding into slightly weirder, older marks of technology, stuff that's been forbidden for the longest time, or that the Imperium at large hasn't had the means to make or cultivate. That's great fun. Go for it. Why not?
Do you think they'll release the Space Marine Codex first, or do you think the Necron one? Because the week after will be whichever one they didn't do the previous week.
Got a funny feeling it'll be the Necrons first.
I'm hoping so.
I think they've released more in the way of rules for the Necrons, and it seems to be very different from what. And of course, you have to bear in mind, whereas all of the Primaris units largely can be used using existing codices, the Necrons can't. There's just a whole range of new miniatures for the Necrons. So they're going to have to get the Codex out pretty quickly, I imagine.
I would hope so.
And also we've got Eradicators who are like look like they're going to be like very nasty long to mid range units, all armed with melter guns.
Yeah, because melter guns are shotguns, effectively, aren't they?
They shoot superheated air.
Yeah.
So they basically anything they touch, anything that gets in the way of the invisible burst of superheated air, just calcifies it. Just all the moisture in their body just evaporates. And they become dust, essentially. They're very, very nasty mid-range sort of anti-armor guns.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how long-range these will be. This is a thing I suppose we talked about last time as well. Counters to counters to counters. It seems like this is another like alien counter unit, which is kind of a shame, but again makes sense.
Oh, they've got different armor as well. I did not notice that. If you look, their armor, Gravis armor.
Yeah, they've got. That's what the Gravis armor is. The guys with the jetpacks, isn't it?
Oh, now that is interesting. And also the melters they've got are melter rifles, so they're much longer range than your standard melter gun.
Yeah.
So these guys are pains in the arse, basically. They're going to be real pains for anyone who's facing them, because they will be able to eradicate heavy armor and like nasty units like monsters, demon primarchs, that kind of thing, your Carnifexes, from a long range. So
I assume this unit is in here to get rid of the destroyers. This is the anti-destroyer unit, probably.
That would be my guess. Yeah. Yes. I mean, it's something we've discussed before, but one thing that does slightly concern me with all this is the fact that the Space Marines are one of those armies that have a hard counter for everything else in the game.
Yeah.
And I'm not overly on board with that. I do feel that armies are as defined by their weaknesses as they are by their strengths. But that said, as long as the other armies get the same treatment, it's fine.
Sure, definitely.
So when as and when the Chaos Space Marines come out, and I'm sure they'll be, because they're one of the oldest codexes now, when they get their new 9th Ed codex, there will be something in there that brings them up to par,
Yeah, definitely.
They're gonna bloody need it. With all the attention that Space Marines and Primaris have been having, they're gonna really need it.
I can't imagine it would take, depending how much focus they're getting in the next edition, I suppose, story-wise, I guess will probably determine how quickly their book comes out.
Well, it is interesting, isn't it? Because they were talking about this on the stream. They said that obviously there's more like a Xenos-centric thing going on here with 9th Ed. But they did say that, I mean, obviously, if you looked at the rule book that comes in the Indomitus box set, it depicts Guilliman and Abaddon.
Yeah.
As the classic, it is the classic dynamic of the 40k universe. So they can't afford to totally ignore it. They can't afford to just, because that is the narrative ultimately.
Yeah.
So my guess is what will happen with Chaos is they've been hinting for a long time, and there are certainly suggestions in Psychic Awakening, there have been rumours flying about, that what they're going to do with Chaos Forces is break them up a little bit.
Okay.
So what you're going to be getting are like the different factions of Chaos. Judging by Psychic Awakening and the little hints we've been getting in these books, there's definitely going to be a Dark Mechanicum army.
Hey.
Without a shadow of a doubt, because they're mentioned way too much and they physically turn up way too much. I'm working my way through Engine War at the moment. I got that in the post. The Dark Mechanicum are in it, not as an army, but they are in the background. They physically occur in this book. Right. So they've got to do it. I mean, you can't just have these guys running around in the background and not have them as a miniatures range.
No, agreed. Yeah.
It's just a wasted opportunity, and people will go nuts for them. People will go absolutely nuts for a Dark Mechanicum army.
You can do loads of interesting things with them. I mean, they did enough really cool minis for the Mechanicus anyway.
Right. I mean,
having a dark kind of spear on that would be even better.
Right. Imagine the Mechanicum, like the Adeptus Mechanicus, but with like chaos, so fleshy mutations and not bound by the parameters of technology.
Yeah.
You could go nuts. There could be like the most hideous abominations in this army imaginable. Forget obliterators, forget mutilators, just really vile, hideous things. It would be foolish not to do it. Of course, there will be eventually, we've been talking about this since the Fluffenhammer started, the Emperor's Children.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing that I'm sure specifically you and a lot of other people have been waiting for.
Well,
And it'd be weird for them not to do at least one or two Primarchs at some point in the
it
future.
would be full. Again, Psychic Awakening, Fulgrim is in it. He's hinted at, but he's definitely in it. You know, he's occurred. So they've got to do it. They've got to do it. And not only that, if you watch the streams, if you watch like the Twitch streams, if you look at the releases on the Facebook page and whatnot, there's always a whole host of people saying Emperor's Children, Emperor's Children, Fulgrim, when are they coming? New Noise Marines. It's going to happen, but obviously it'll happen in Ninth Ed now. You know, so, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and it won't be the opening for Ninth Ed either.
No, it won't. It will be some time into it. I mean, my guess is if it isn't late this year, it'll be next year now, you know.
Okay, yeah.
The Outriders, I'm just looking at. We've got the Primaris Bikers.
Yeah, the bike. Yeah, I mean,
They're fun.
They're bikers. They're on bikes. I don't think they're nearly as, like, cool looking as the Gene Stealer cult bikers, to be honest.
Oh, wow, what is? What is? I mean, the thing with the Gene Stealer cult bikes is they look so ragged, don't they? They look so dirty and, like, patched together.
Yeah.
Whereas these things, I mean, the Primaris are so big that the bikes are like little tanks, you know? They're the size of small cars, aren't they, you know?
Like if there was a third wheel on the back and they had little pedals to push with their legs, I wouldn't be surprised. Little push bikes.
Like little Fisher-Price things.
Exactly.
Very cool. Very cool. But, I mean, it's something Primaris players have been calling out for donkey's years. So,
yeah.
I mean, eventually you're going to get them all, aren't they? The next step is Terminators.
Or whatever the new equivalent of them is. Definitely.
Whatever Terminators, like Primaris Terminators will be, it will be Terminators. Like, how big are those bastards going to be?
There'll be mini dreadnoughts.
Right, they're going to have to be massive.
I wouldn't be surprised if they were a similar scale to the Scorpec destroyers.
That would be my guess as well.
You'll probably put them in units of 3 and that'll be how they work.
Yeah, and again, it's another example of how they're AOSing this whole thing. You know, so you're getting smaller units but bigger entities within them.
Yeah.
And that's fine by me.
Oh, totally, yeah.
That's totally fine by me.
Because they have more presence then on the board.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit of a size queen when it comes to my miniatures. I like big miniatures, and I cannot lie. You know.
Oh man, okay, yeah.
You know, I love the big miniatures. I think they're just so much fun.
I think, I don't think you could have done a bigger Terminator back in the day, and I say that specifically for like Space Hulk. Space Hulk is a hard enough game as it is, but can you imagine Space Hulk with three Terminators?
Right.
That's
I mean, just logistically, how would they get down the corridors? You know, they just fill the entire corridor and block it up with Gene Stealers, wouldn't they? You know. But yeah, I mean, logistically that would be difficult. But I wonder what they are going to be.
Yeah.
The new Terminators, the Primaris equivalent of Terminators. They're obviously not going to be Terminators.
No.
They're going to be something slightly different. And how do you balance them? That's another thing. How do you balance them? Because they can't be too much, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. They need, again, like you said, they need to have some weakness to them so the other races can beat them.
They do. They really do. I mean, looking at what they've done with I mean, this is where for me, this is where the excitement lies in this new box set. It's the Necrons. It's the Necrons, and it's about time, really.
Oh yeah, because their models are old. The newest model they had was like 2 years ago, which was the Cryptek.
Yep.
I think
it was. And they've been they're one of those Xenos races that they have this tendency to languish in the background a bit.
Which makes sense thematically as well, I suppose.
Of course it does. I mean, it does, because they do operate on the fringes of the Imperium, don't they?
Yeah.
And they up until recently, it's the fun of them is that like the sort of Indiana Jones, almost Lovecraftian horror of them, where you've got like some explorator team who are digging down into the crust of a planet and they find a tomb, and suddenly it wakens around them. They move something off of a plinth, or they activate some security protocol, and suddenly the walls open and the Necrons emerge. That's the fun of them, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's the entire game story basis for the Mechanicus PC game.
Right. I mean, that's what the Necrons were when they were originally conceived.
Yeah.
But it looks like what they're doing with the new box set, and certainly with the new edition, is they are ramping up the threat of the Necrons. So no longer are they just going to be like tiny little tomb worlds that are scattered across the galaxy. You're going to get a mass awakening of these guys, which makes sense because their king has come back, Zarek.
Yeah, and all the dynasties are being rallied together finally.
Right. I mean, well, if there was anyone who was going to do it, it was going to be Zarek, because he is the
Yeah.
father of the Necron race, essentially, you know? This guy is a big deal. This Zarek has, I mean, it's not hyperbole to say that he has yoked gods to his heel. Right? I mean...
Do you think because he's come back is maybe why if they are, like, obviously we don't know for sure, it might be the reason why there are no more Necron flayers, because maybe he's wiped them out.
Maybe that,
Because if there's
assuming...
someone that can wipe them out, he would be be able to, I would assume.
Right. So maybe he's, I mean, assuming there aren't flayers, because there may be
course,
still,
that's
they
the
may
thing,
still be
yeah.
around, but if they're not, and if there is some fluff pertaining to it, maybe he's managed to seal them away in whatever, like, subplane they exist in, or maybe he's purged the corrupt protocols that create the flayed ones.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Yeah, who knows? Because it is a disease, isn't it? That's what creates the flayed ones. It's
Well,
like
there's like 2 or 3 backstories to them, if I recall, or something like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I think one of them was they were awake for their entire time of suspended animation, so like 2 billion years, and they just went a little bit
just went
loopy.
mad, basically.
Which
yeah.
is that's not a bad idea. Then there's the
kinda like
curse
that.
aspect, which is probably the one that they're gonna probably more focus on, I would imagine.
That's right. I remember reading that. It's one of the theories is that they were cursed by one of the Catan, weren't they? Like a parting shot as the Catan was being imprisoned.
Yeah, it was like the Catan of flayed something or
other.
and
yeah.
they just went, we love bits on bodies on us, and it's like, right, Necrons rock and roll.
And the other theory is that down the centuries, the protocols that reanimated them have degraded.
Yeah.
And as it's degraded, they've gone slightly loopy.
Yeah.
But it's infectious.
And
it's
it was
like
one
a
of those
disease.
things that they could, like, Necrons could shoot them, kill them, but then they'd go back home and regenerate, so you could never really get rid of them. He probably could, I would assume, just because he is the guy.
Probably could. In fact, Illuminor Zardas probably could as well.
Yeah.
Because, of course, I mean, Zarek is the king who presided over the Necron Empire when the War in Heaven happened, basically. Zeras is the one who came up with the whole process of biotransference that created the Necron race. So both of the forefathers have come back in this new edition.
Yeah, you've got King Arthur and you've got Merlin, effectively.
Basically, yeah, in a weird kind of way. But my God, if they've gone nuts with the Primaris, I don't know what to say about the new Necrons. They have taken that aesthetic and driven it to just the nth degree. Just the nth degree. I'm just looking at the Overlord at the moment.
He's big.
He's a big old dude. You can't really appreciate it from this photograph.
No.
But you look at him in context with some of the other miniatures. This guy's huge. Yeah. He's a big hulking monster of a guy. And the size of that scythe, that glaive thing that he's got.
It's going to be hard to put the previous Overlord with him, I feel, in a lot of ways. The Overlord's just going to look like a lord in a lot of ways, which is probably how I'll model mine, because I've got one of the old ones from the start box, and I don't think I could like justify him as he's an Overlord. It's like
he's a bit too
tiny. Small.
Yeah, a bit too tiny. Yeah. What decorous is what they've gone for, isn't it? They've tried to make these guys look less uniform and given them a bit more flavor. You know, it's as though these guys had, which it makes sense. They had specifically artificer-made bodies prepared for them. Which is great. That's absolutely wonderful. And I love the little mechanical details, like I think that's a hyperphase gauntlet that he's got.
Yeah, it's whatever the Lich Guard's the weapon option was, but it's a much more interesting version of that. Not the Lich Guard. Oh god, what are they called?
The Praetorian Guard? Is it the
That's
Praetorian Guard?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like him a lot. And I love all the dangly bits.
I like his groin one, but I'm not against it, but I would mainly snip off the ones on his front and put them on his back or something.
To give him like a capey feeling.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a very interesting kit, that one.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I wonder what options he comes with.
From what I remember from the stream, it didn't look like he didn't nearly have as many as the Space Marine. The Space Marine had like 3 heads you could choose from.
That does make sense. I mean, the problem the Necrons do face in that regard is that they are quite uniform, aren't they? You know,
yes.
there's a standard body type for the Necrons.
Yeah.
You know, and we're just looking at the Royal Warden on the way down.
He's great.
I'd assume this guy's going to be quite big too.
He looked it because I think people when they originally saw like the faraway photo of this guy with everybody else, everybody I think was going, he's an immortal. Just because he looked bigger and stuff,
Yeah,
but
he does
he's
look
not.
like an immortal. He's something different, though, isn't he? These
Yeah,
guys are
he's a
like,
royal version.
right, yeah, so a bit more advanced, a little bit more about him, presumably, a little bit more intelligent than your immortals, and assumedly he's got a nastier weapon going as well.
I don't know.
Blaster, a
Isn't
relic
that the
Gorse
same?
blaster.
Oh, that'll be the thing that makes it better. The relic,
It's
part.
It's an updated version, yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, these guys are going to be nasty, presumably.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at this guy and the way that they described him, it sounded like he's going to work similar to the guy with the lantern for the chain rasps.
Right, so he's going to be able to like take wounds that the Lord would take, presumably. He's like throw himself in front of them or something.
It'll be some kind of buff. So maybe it'll, like you say, it'll increase their save rolls, or maybe it'll make their reanimation protocol better, or they'll be more accurate. It'll be something like that.
I've got a funny feeling that's the way, because there's so many new character models coming out for the Necrons. I get the impression there's going to be like massive buff bubbles all over the battlefield.
They kind of needed it, because the only kind of characters you had were the Cryptek, the Lord, the Overlord, and then 4 characters or 5 characters, and that was it.
But now, not so much, yeah? Not so much.
A lot more variety. Hopefully this will give a lot more variety in the gameplay as well.
I certainly hope so. I mean, I'm just looking now at like, one of my favourite miniatures from the whole release, the Plasmancer.
Yeah, he's great.
I love him. I mean, I know we said earlier that the Necrons have a certain standard body type, but they are doing everything they can to move away from that. So you are getting these, in the same way the Tyranids can play with biomatter and create all sorts of extrusions and different body forms. They're doing exactly the same with the Necrons, but with metallic and mechanical forms.
Yeah.
So you've got the Plasmancer, who on the face of it looks basically humanoid. But then you start looking at the miniature and you realise actually he's got no like abdomen. There's no lower part of him. He's just like tapers away to a sort of spinal vertebrae tail.
Yeah, like the wraiths, right?
Yeah,
the wraiths have those tails.
It's so cool. I love him to bits, and I love his big Tutankhamun beard thing.
Yeah, it's even bigger than the Crypteks.
Right, I think he's absolutely fantastic, and apparently he is a type of Cryptek. So he's like he's a type of Cryptek that deals with destruction. I mean, do you remember what the Crypteks used to be when they were first released, when they were first introduced into the game?
I remember the resin mini, but I don't remember their role.
Originally, they were the equivalent of Psykers, because, of course, the Necrons didn't have Psykers. They just didn't have them. You couldn't use them. And that was a big problem for them. That was a big-ass problem, because the game back then relied on you having Psykers. You had to have them.
Oh,
so they introduced the Crypteks as an equivalent. So rather than using psychic powers, they all had elemental powers. So you could have a Cryptek that was a Cryptek of chronology, like a chronomancer, who would be able to manipulate time. You'd have one who was a plasmancer. There was one who he was a solarmancer, so he could manipulate light and fire and stars and all of that kind of thing. And it seems like they moved away from that. They moved away from that with some of the latter codices, and the Crypteks just became standardized. They were just Crypteks. You took a Cryptek, and a Cryptek was a Cryptek. It looks like they're moving away from that back to the old style again. So you've got different types of Cryptek that do different things. So you've got this Plasmancer guy who is going to be able to harness the energies of plasma and basically litter the battlefield with destruction.
Yeah, I kind of looked at these and thought probably like a bright wizard and a normal Cryptek's like a wizard of life, something like that. It's the same idea.
I think that's pretty much it. And it wouldn't surprise me if you get, in the same way that you can get like different schools or different laws of psychic powers in like different codices, wouldn't surprise me in the least if in the new book the Crypteks have different powers that you can apply to them based on what type of Cryptek they are.
Do you think the famous character one, whatever his name is, off the top of my head, I can't remember. Do you know who I mean?
I know who you mean. I can't remember his name.
With an O, I think.
Oh, yes. I can't remember his name.
That guy. Maybe he'll have multiple laws of Necron magic. So he'll be able to do, like, that'll make that's why he's a special one. That's why he'll be a named character, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe.
Because he can do the same job a normal crypt tech can do and a plasma mancer can
and then
do.
some. Yeah, so he can just sort of like, he doesn't specialize essentially. Yeah, that's not a bad idea actually.
Tetless,
I mean,
because Tetless does the same kind of thing, doesn't he? Or did?
he did. I don't know what he does now.
No,
I mean,
I
he
don't know.
hangs out with a really big weird cat thing, from what I can see. That's what he's hanging around with now. My favorite miniatures in the whole release.
The crypt thralls.
The crypto thralls,
Yeah.
the dustbin chickens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love them. Love them to bits. They are, again, another example of them moving away from that humanoid aesthetic. Mm-hmm. And why not? You know, I mean, these guys can create new bodies from technology, yeah? So why wouldn't they experiment with that? Why wouldn't they try to perfect that or to create different body forms for different functions?
Yeah.
Makes sense. And these guys look great. I mean, they've even described them here as long-taloned murder buckets. Which is exactly what they are. It's exactly what they are. You know, as I said on the Fluffenhammer, someone is going to have to do... They're going to have to do like a Commissar Sanders to fight against them. Just for the laugh of it, you know? Just for the laugh. Love them. Love them to bits. Again, I know people don't.
Okay, is it because of the silly factor, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's because they are slightly silly and they're slightly... I mean, also, they're just different, aren't they? You know, they are very different from pretty much anything that's been in the Necron range thus far. But I love them.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. One of the, I guess, more generic things about them is the fact that because I've seen this in a lot of like sci-fi stuff, that the head opens up and closes.
Yes, I can see. Yeah, because
it's been used a lot. Like it looks like things from Destiny and Portal in some ways as well. But I think that's a good way to get a a metallic face to emote without.
Yes, to sort of express. Yeah. Yeah, and you can see that on the miniature on the left. It is like it's modelled so that the face is sort of opening up and the eye is extending a little bit.
Yeah,
which is really cool. I love that.
They were another reason why I was wondering if flayed ones are going, because it looks like they won't maybe not fill the exact role, but they have long clawed hands and they're close range. They're specifically guards for the plasma mancer, but I was like, I don't know.
It could be that, you know. It could be that. They could be the replacements.
Maybe not. We've no idea. But...
We don't know. We just don't know. Scorpec Lord.
Yeah, we've seen him. He still looks good.
He's so cool. I mean, you know, I'm not a Necron player. I sort of appreciate them from afar. But what I'm looking at with these guys is, okay, how can I make like a Lord of Discord from that?
Oh, yeah.
You know? How can I convert that to make it into something for the Chaos Space Marines? Or how can I make a Talos Pain Engine from that?
Yeah, you can definitely go down the Dark Eldar route with this stuff, yes. Yeah.
So much. And the little ones, the little Scorpec Destroyers, those are cute.
Cute. You say little, they're still pretty big.
Oh, they're still pretty huge. Yeah, they're still pretty huge. I mean, this is another fun thing, because these are expansions of the whole Destroyer subcult. And they're another example of Necrons who have gone a bit wampy.
Yes.
The Destroyer plague basically makes them into nihilists. They don't want to conquer anymore. They don't want to rebuild the universe. They just want to destroy everything. And I'm interested to see where the Scorpecs come from in that regard. You know, do they suffer from the same disease, the same nihilism, the same tendency?
I would imagine so. Maybe it's just like the torso's been plopped onto these little spider legs and the arms have been replaced with claws, but they're still like the same normal destroyer.
Yeah. Well, it's better than them riding on a big soap dish, isn't it? Which is what the old destroyers are like.
Well, there's the new soap dish, which we can talk about in a bit as well.
Really good, yeah. Have you seen the rules for these guys?
No, I haven't looked at all at any rules.
My God.
You mean for the Scorpecs?
Yeah.
Or do you mean, right, okay.
The Scorpec Destroyers, those glaives they've got, those scythes, they do a basic 3 damage. So
wow. Okay.
They are monsters. They're absolute monsters. Not nice. You're going to want to gun them down before they get to your lines, basically. But I'm assuming these guys have got some Tomb King's chicanery going on, where they can maybe burrow underground and come up underneath your units or something like that.
Climb over terrain.
Maybe something nasty like that. So
yeah, you'd have to, because in games, I mean, they've said since the start of talking about 9th edition that it's going to be more. There's going to be more applications to close range, and if you can just easily gun these down from long range, then it's like, oh well.
Yeah, they're going to be pointless, aren't they? They're going to be point sinks, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, probably the most alien miniature in the whole thing is the plasma sight.
Yeah, definitely.
So weird. I love it. I think actually it's one of my favorites. I think it's
quite
absolutely
cute.
beautiful. Yeah, it is kind of cute.
Yeah.
I like the way it's stalking down that sort of ruined bit of temple. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's everybody said this. It's a buff unit.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, clearly. I mean, and they say in the blurb for it that it particularly can infuse destroyers with tainted energy. Don't know what that means. Also, it's weirdly cute. Yes, it is. It is cute. I like it a lot, actually.
I'm wondering if it's going to be one of those things where the bonus is like within so many centimeters or whatnot, or whether it's he juices you and it lasts for so many turns and then they can go off.
I don't know. He looks like he's going to be a unit to protect because I imagine he's going to be quite weak.
Yeah, but that's why I wondered, because you can't have the destroyers limited. I would imagine you can't limit the destroyers by this unit's movements, because it doesn't look like this is going to be fast.
No, it looks like it's actually going to be quite ponderous and weak and sort of difficult to maneuver around. But at the same time, I do love the idea of these little buffing units everywhere. That's something, I love that about the Death Guard. They've got that going on. And I'm into that. I'm well into that. I mean, the Canoptic Reanimator, all I hear in my head is Jeff Wayne. All I'm hearing is the War of the Worlds.
Yes.
And it's brilliant. I absolutely friggin' love it. It's spindly, it's long-limbed, it's weird as all hell. I just love it. And they're really going hard for the alien quality with this one.
Yeah, because the head still has the idea of the canoptic spiders and the wraiths, but it's changed a little bit, but it still has the aesthetic of those things in it.
Right. I mean, it's undeniably part of the Necron range. You can definitely see that. But at the same time, it's so weird.
Yeah. I don't think there's any... The only other thing that we've seen that could even be close to this are the artillery fungus things that we talked about last time.
Great,
that would be the only thing that's like an equivalent, because nothing else is this kind of tall.
Again, it's this AOS thing of just taking armies away from what you expect of them, putting in these weird, wacky, deranged elements, letting the designers go a bit mad.
Yeah.
I'm so for it. I'm so for it. This aesthetic, I love. I love it to bits, and I want one of those miniatures. Don't know what I'm going to do with it. But I just love it. I love it to bits. It's so characterful. And the way that the head is sort of peering out on that long neck from underneath the shell, I just love it. Love it to bits.
Now, I would say that this is totally the exact same kit as what's the Canoptic Doomstalker. It's the same kit, but what I assumed was it's going to be again one of those things in this set. This is the version that you get, but if you get the Destroyer, it'll have both options in it.
I mean, it would make sense, because they are very similar, aren't they? It would make a lot of sense. So you can make one or the other, yeah?
Mm-hmm. But they only give you in this box set the one option, which again...
The Reanimator. Yeah,
which makes sense, because then it gives you a reason to buy the other version.
It sounds like it's quite tough as well. I mean, it's a buffing unit, again, so it improves reanimation protocols. So my guess is +1 to whatever, in the bubble around it. But it also has some nasty weaponry as well.
Yeah.
Atomizer beam lances. That's
not a bad name.
It's not a bad name. It's not a bad name. It tells you exactly what they do, doesn't it? It tells you... And we've got new scarabs!
Thank God. And it looks like you can have more than 4 on a base.
Good. They're cute as all hell. I love them to bits. And I love what they do. I mean, they're essentially based on the scarabs from the Mummy films.
Oh, yeah.
It's what they are. And that's how you're supposed to picture them. They swarm over things and render them down to their atomic elements, essentially. So these guys give the Tyranids a run for their money.
Yeah, they're a good counter to them, potentially, in a sense. I heard some people said that they'll be dumping their OG what the scarab swarms. Yeah. I'd happily place them together with them.
Yeah,
like have one big one and then these little ones kind of surrounding it.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, does anyone out there remember like the original scarabs?
Oh, they were massive.
They were massive, big spidery things. They were massive, and do you remember the way they used to operate?
No, I never played them, but
they were living
saw
bombs.
The minis.
They were living bombs back then. What they used to do, they would clamp to the side of tanks and blow them open. They would blow up.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. But they changed them. Cool. They changed them to make them more like swarms.
Right.
Later on, and we've got the standard the Necron warriors.
Yes, we see a lot more options with them this time round as well, and we find out what the new gun is.
Oh yes, yeah. So you've got your standard Gorse gun, the Gorse rifle. What else have they got? What is the new gun called?
What's it called? It's a short-ranged,
Gorse
hard-hitting
Reaper.
Gorse Reaper. It's a shotgun.
It's a shotgun, yeah.
Yeah, it's you have either your long range or your close range.
But that's nice, isn't it? Because I mean, one of the things the Necrons again have suffered with, their standard troop choices are all the same. They're pretty much all the same. It's the Necron warrior with a Gorse rifle, and that's it. So it looks like what they're trying to do is introduce more variety into the Necron warriors to make them a bit more tactically flexible. That's cool.
I'm interested to see if they'll. I guess this is why they've got the reanimator, because I heard that they got gunned down fairly quickly because they had no invincibility saves, and the reanimation protocol was never that great. It was only like,
It didn't do what it said on the tin, basically.
That's what I hear.
The thing with the Necrons is they're supposed to be a horror army. They're basically the undead in 40k.
Sure. Yeah.
So what you're supposed to have with the Necron warriors is like you blow bits off them and they keep crawling towards you and they start repairing themselves, That's kind of what you're supposed to get. They're supposed to be indomitable, but they've never really had that in the game.
Hopefully they will do now.
I hope so. I sincerely hope so. Because I want them to be frightening. I don't play them, but facing them, I want them to be frightening in the same way I want the Tyranids to be frightening, I like that horror element. More, please. But I'm seriously impressed. I know we do this all the time on the Fluffenhammer. We talk up Games Workshop. We are not being sponsored by Games Workshop. Lord that we were.
I was going to say unless you wanna. Yeah. I always say on my podcast I'll sell out.
For Games Workshop, considering how well they've been doing, and I don't just mean financially, I mean in terms of how well they're treating their staff, how well they did throughout the COVID-19 thing, the fact that they've given their government grants back.
Yeah.
It's like, they have become an ethical company. So it's like,
to a point.
As
much as a company can, because
insofar as
always remember.
Right, yeah. Insofar as a company as big as Games Workshop can, they've become an ethical company.
Yeah.
Certainly better than many that are in their position,
Oh, definitely, yeah.
So if they would like to, we're up for it. We're definitely up for getting more involved,
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, I'm just so impressed with this Necron range. I'm so impressed they've thrown so much at it.
It's a real big box full of a lot of things.
And this isn't even half of it. I mean, with that little picture that's been floating around that shows you all the other crap that's coming out. It's just like, wow. Wow. The one I want to see a picture of is that Catan. Who is it? That Catan. Is it the Void Dragon?
Oh, that one. Right, I thought you meant the one Zeraz has.
Oh,
no.
No. The thing with the wings and the tail. Is it the...
Definitely.
I mean, I think it's going to be the Void Dragon. And if it's the Void Dragon, what does that mean?
Well, if it's contained in a Necron body, perhaps Zeraz has captured it.
But what does it mean for Mars?
Oh, right.
I mean, if it's the Void Dragon, that means there must have been some war on Mars, because it must have erupted from underneath.
Or insurrection.
Right.
Like maybe it was uncovered by rogue Mechanicus.
Maybe so.
And secretly shipped out.
Oh, I mean, this is another thing that's exciting me about the new edition, the narrative.
Yeah.
Where's it going? I mean, that core book is massive.
It looks pretty thick.
It's massive.
And although the cover, like the artwork's not my favorite, it's nice. It still looks good. It's got a good solid look to it.
Yeah, it tells you. It kind of contains everything you want to know about 40k, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's got the basic dynamic going on there. I'm just very excited to see what they're going to do, because if they're going to AOS the miniatures, hopefully they're going to AOS the codices as well. So rather than just being like rehashes of what we've had before, all the standard background, they'll move the armies on a bit.
Paint them guides, put painting guides in them. I dare you.
Like they used to.
Well, no, like in the AOS ones, the painting guides are in those.
Yes, go for that'd be so much fun.
And there are fun jokes in some of those as well.
There are, yes.
So yeah, definitely more jokes. Of that.
Yeah,
because as a novice kind of painter, I find it interesting to see this. Granted, it's only like a one picture thing, and then like 2 or 3 little very short sentences, but it's interesting to read how they achieved it.
Right, how they achieve the effect, and it's often very simple. The techniques the heavy metal team use are actually they're often very achievable by normal painters, yeah?
Unless it says edge highlighting, then I go...
then it's like, that would strain my eyes, and my trembly fingers would probably not cope with that.
I hear a good way to do edge highlighting is watercolor pencils, potentially.
Okay, interesting.
I was like, I'm not sure if I'll have... It was Uncle Adam mentioned it on one of his newer videos. I was like,
okay.
That might be worth a trot.
But my God, this is a really good example of just how interesting this release has been, or this hint of what we're getting. Yeah. Then neither of them are armies I collect.
Let's be honest, you're not going to get Space Marines.
No.
Ever.
No, Space Marines don't do it for me.
The only thing I could see you doing is maybe picking up some of these models to butcher them into Chaos Space Marines.
That's definitely a potential, yes. I can definitely see myself doing that. And the same is true of some of the Necron miniatures as well. I can definitely see turning them into hideous machines for homunculi covens, or for my up-and-coming creations of Bile, the Chosen of Fabius, but... Beyond that, they're not armies I collect, but I am still so excited. I'm excited for the people who do.
Yeah.
I just love seeing people who are enthusiastic about this stuff, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen. I can't wait to see the people on the Fluffenhammer getting a hold of this stuff and going wild with it, painting it up, and just getting excited about it all.
So I'm assuming you won't be getting this box, but will you be getting the rule book when it comes out?
I'll be getting the book. Part of me even wants the box. It just wants it for the bits and to mess about with it. It does. There's a part of me that still wants the box, and I might, depending on how expensive it is, because I have actually shelled out quite a lot of money for stuff recently for different bits and pieces, not least of which is the War of the Spider stuff and Fabius Bile. We'll see.
Well, we all know that the rumors, which aren't confirmed yet, is 120. Is that too much for you, or is that doable for you?
It's doable.
Because I don't doable. Like some people say it's too much, and it is a lot.
It's a lot of money.
Kirith has said, but it doesn't look like you're getting gypped.
No, I can see that, because essentially this is the first time where you're getting what is essentially two complete armies in a box set, yeah? You can put these two armies together and have a game of Warhammer 40,000, like a proper game, not an introductory game, a proper game.
Yeah, because Soul Wars it wasn't bad, but it didn't look like a full army. It looked like nearly a full army.
Yeah,
it was missing some elements to it.
Yeah, almost like scout forces, almost. Like the vanguard of an army.
Yes, yeah, I'd say Soul Wars. It was that in between stage between the really cheap set, like you say, the Vanguard set, and this. That was in between stage. This is just higher. There's more. There's way more to it. There was way more higher level, not characters, but high tier characters, leader type characters.
This is a very clever way of doing it as well, because you are going to get like kids who get this box set and they can just play. They can put the miniatures together and them and their friends can just play a game.
But this is going to be, I think, again, like Soul Wars, they say limited, but it's like there'll be loads of them, but it'll only be on the shelves for 6 months or something like that.
Oh well, that's fine. I can deal with that.
Yeah, it's not like Dark Imperium where it's going to be up there for the entire run of 9th edition.
Right, yeah.
It sounds like it's going to be like a lot like Soul Wars, where it'll be up for a bit and then you'll just be like, okay, you can't get it anymore. It's done.
But it's exciting. And are they going to continue this trend throughout 9th Ed? So are we going to get equivalent box sets for other armies down the line?
Oh, kind of like 9th edition 2.5 or something like that, or 0.0, where it's the next evolution of the story. So here's the army that goes with that part of the story. Yeah,
so it like evolve. Presumably you would get codices released with those sets rather than the core rulebook, and it just moves it on a little bit, and maybe a campaign book or something like that.
So, like, if it was 8th edition, there would have been the Cadia box set.
Yes, and like the Vigilus box set and all of that. Yeah,
I think that's a good way to do it, because from a sales point of view, it keeps people happy, because there's a big box coming, and it's involved with the story. So it's not just here's a book, and then do what you like. It's here's a book and here's a load of minis to go with it.
It makes people feel involved as well, doesn't it? Like, it's not the case like, well, here are the enshrined armies for this edition and everybody else is going to get scratchy little bits, you know? It means that everyone's going to get their time. Everyone's going to get their day in the sun.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like, from a business point of view, that could work if that's what they're going for.
Oh, please. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I mean, I'm looking... They really need to do, because we haven't had it properly yet, they need to do a box set like this that's got Thousand Suns and Space Wolves in it.
See, I would say Eldari, because the Eldars are in desperate need of getting new, like... the Eldar warriors? They're like 30 years old now.
The Azhayani, who have got like miniatures that were originally released in lead.
Yeah. And now they're plastic, and they desperately need those to be remade.
They so need it.
I don't care about the Eldar. I'll never care about the Eldar, but I want those people to have new
They were my first army. They were my first army, the Azhayani. Well, they weren't the Azhayani back then. They were the Eldar back then. My very first army in 40k was an Eldar army, all in lead. The whole thing was in lead, and there are miniatures still in the range now that are exactly the same.
Yeah.
Exactly the same, and it's like, God almighty, yes, that does need updating. Does.
That's how I always feel. I feel that the oldest models need to be replaced.
Yeah.
Or the ones that are useful that are only in resin.
Yeah, totally. They
need help.
The Phoenix Lords, the Warp Spiders, all of these things need replacing desperately.
Yeah.
Desperately, they really do. But my God, it's exciting. It's all very exciting. I am very, very intrigued to see what's next.
What did you think of the extra preview of the things coming after the box, like
the buggies,
the Invader ATV?
Yeah, they're great fun. They look very impractical. They look mad. I can see lots of Orc players customizing them.
Yes,
I really can. And actually, Genestealer Cult players.
Ah, yeah. With only a bit of modding, it could look a bit more into their things. Yes, I'd be up for that.
Totally. Defaced, and it could look really good. They're fun. There's a lot of stuff coming down the line. A lot of stuff. I mean, the obviously what they've done is released whole ranges here.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Or they're going to be releasing whole ranges, so it's going to be a big, expensive time for Warhammer 40,000 players, definitely. But I'm excited. I'm very excited.
I'm not a big fan of the ATV. It looks a bit silly from my eyes, but it looks like it's the silly, like the teddy bear armor, whatever that was called.
I just want to call it that now.
The teddy bear armor. That's how I always thought of it. It kind of delves into that kind of design aesthetic where it looks a bit too silly. I'm not against it, though.
Yeah. It's totally OTT. It's ridiculous. I mean, it is. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm kind of into it.
Yeah. I don't love it, but I don't actively hate it.
Yeah.
Is probably how I would describe it. Then you've got a new tarantula turret.
Yeah.
Basically.
I mean, that's
cool.
actually going way back.
Yeah.
That's going way, way back into like the RTB01 days. That's going back into the Rogue Trader days, that is. The Space Marines used to have these static emplacements back then.
Yeah, because it's way more of an Imperial Guards or Astra Militarum thing more so than a Space Marine thing.
Totally. The Space Marines have always been a bit more mobile than that, But it looks like they're going back to the older days with this one. It's very fun. It's very cool. I'm interested to see what they do. Again, I'm a little bit wary of Space Marines having everything,
Yeah.
That's a problem for me, especially when like other armies don't get the equivalents. But as long as the rest of the 9th Ed forces have the similar time and attention given to them, it's fine.
I would agree. Yeah.
It's fine. Chaos player, I really want them to stop being bitty with the Chaos Space Marines and just release a whole range of them.
Not kind of like what they've done here with the Necrons.
Exactly. Yeah. Not just like, this needs updating, so let's do that. This needs updating, so let's do the whole range. Just do the whole range and introduce loads of new weird and wacky stuff. I mean, it's chaos. The Chaos Space Marines have been fighting in the warp for God knows how long. You don't think there'd be different derivations of them by this point? Remove them from just being like pointy Marines or Space Marines with mutations. Make them different.
Then what would the Orcs call them? Because they're the Spiky Boys.
The Spiky Boys. Do you know what they call the Eldar?
What they call them?
Pointy-headed hippies. Pointy-headed hippies is what they call the Eldar, which is fine. It's absolutely true.
Yes.
It's actually, I mean, it's not fair on the Drukhari. But do you know what? Apparently, in the same bit of fluff where it talks about that, what the orcs call them, the orcs are too stupid to notice the difference. They don't draw
That's
any
fair.
difference.
Yeah.
Which is so funny.
They look the same.
They look the same. Considering that orcs are derived from football hooligans originally, them having that kind of racist element to them, it does make sense. It makes perfect sense.
Eldar are Eldar at the end of the day, whether they've got spiky bits on them or not.
Or not, yeah, apparently so. They all look the same, apparently.
They all look the same when cut in half.
When cut in half.
Or shot.
Or beheaded, yeah, absolutely. Oh, brilliant. So much fun. So much fun. Oh, man. I can't wait, though. And I hope, if they are focusing on the Xenos races, then that's where they should go. That's,
do you not think that makes you a bit worried? Because if they are focusing more on Xenos races, maybe Chaos won't get as hard of a focus.
It's entirely the case. It may be the case, and it's a shame, but it's okay because the Xenos races do need it. They need it. They need a little bit more of a shot in the arm, and that's fine. I love the Drukhari. The Drukhari are one of my favourite things in 40k. The Codex is great, but it needs a shot in the arm. It needs more to make it more interesting. Like, go hard on the Homunculi Covens. Why have they only got Talos and what's the other one? Kronos, Parasite engines. Why don't they have all sorts of weird, wonderful flesh engines all over the place? It doesn't make sense why they would just have them,
Maybe at some point this'll happen. Maybe a great space raid will happen. Because that's a narrative problem. It's hard to do a big epic story with the Dark Eldar because they are just raiders.
That has always been a problem for them. That has always been a problem for them. They are not like your Chaos Space Marines who launch Black Crusades all over the place,
or even like the Orcs who do the big wars.
The wars, yeah, they raid. They are, and also they're not interested in it either. They don't want to conquer. They don't want to take entire worlds. They raid for the fun of it. They raid for the joy and the pleasure of inflicting pain and taking slaves and whatnot. That's why they do it. So they're difficult to make a threat on the same scale as some of the other races. Yeah, that's the problem. And that's a thorn. It's a problem to work out, I suppose.
I think you could maybe do something with focusing on them with a box game like Warhammer Quest. They'd probably work quite well in there, so it's a race against time to get through the maze before the other guy does. They could work quite well in something like that. Or you could have them as a secondary antagonist following along behind a big war.
That's it. Like scavengers almost. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that does fit with the Dark Eldar or Drukhari ethos. That's what they're supposed to be. The slight differences are things like the Homunculi Covens, and they raid real space to parade. For them, it's a carnival. It's a carnival. They want to show off their new creations and just enjoy. Some of them do it because they enjoy death. They enjoy pain. So there is a very eccentric homunculus who collects deaths.
Oh, okay.
So the more exotic and weird and wacky and wonderful the death, the better pleased he is.
Okay.
I think it's Yurian Rakoth, actually. Yurian Rakoth does that.
Right.
So there is, like, in the Drukhari Codex, it talks about how he spends like 2 weeks being digested in the belly of a Tyranid and is very, very happy about it.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
It's impressive it took that long. I would have thought the Tyranids would be a bit more
a bit more efficient about it. Yeah. But bear in mind, it's a Drukhari homunculus, so he's probably got all these like genetic alterations whereby he just regenerates, so he probably had a lot of fun with that. It's so weird, but my God, if this is where they're going, then go full AOS on these guys. Just go nuts with the miniatures ranges. Cannot wait to see what they do. Shall we wrap it up there, Andy?
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. We've really we've dissected this one to go Drukhari a little bit on it. We've dissected it down to the bone. Is there anything you'd like to pimp out before we go?
I suppose just my podcast, which is Moonbase 2 Transformers podcast, where me and my buddy Mikey talk about Transformers things, and we've got comics and other stuff we talk about there as well. If you type in Moonbase 2 into Google, you'll probably find us on Facebook, Libsyn, YouTuber's Moonbeast 2 Transformers podcast, and that'll do. I won't bog us down
today. Okay, no worries. As for me, it's just the usual, guys. You can find me knocking about on Exaggerated Elegy on YouTube, where you get lots of different videos, reviews, let's plays, all sorts of stuff. My fiction you can find at strangeplaygrounds.com. There are several short story collections out at the moment: Strange Playgrounds, Essential Atrocities, and Born in Blood Volume 1, Volume 2 coming very, very, very soon, hopefully. And if you want to chat, you can find me at Enigmatic Elegy over on Twitter. You can also find us at the Fluffenhammer. The Facebook page is really fun. It's a nice little Warhammer community. There's a Fluffenhammer YouTube channel and an Instagram as well. Lots and lots of stuff out there at the moment, ladies and gents. And with that all being said, I think we'll call that a day. Until next time, loves. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey.